Today we are taking on the challenge of transforming my plain, uninspiring foyer into a breathtaking masterpiece that will leave you in awe. I am still seriously in awe at the transformation. Let me show you what we are starting with. My foyer has large 20-foot ceilings, which is so grand, and I absolutely love the 2-story height. I love the double doors, and the foyer is large enough that we can accommodate people coming in and out of the house comfortably. Decorating this foyer has been a challenge, to say the least. I've had my foyer table in there, I've had a bench in there, I've had large mirrors and framed artwork, but nothing has ever really made sense, and I've always been unsatisfied with the way that it looks. Well, we are going to change that. So first things first, let's clear out this space. I'm going to remove the bench and then take down the framed art on either side of the large mirror and then remove the large rectangular mirror in the center. Now we have a clean blank slate. And when I do interior design, one of the things that I do a lot is just stare. I know that sounds odd, but I look at a wall or I look at a room and I just envision things in my mind. So I did a lot of staring at this wall and I came up with an idea. My inspiration for the design in this space is my bird lamps. Many of you know my beautiful bird lamps on either side of my bed, on top of my nightstands. I love these lamps. I purchased them from Home Goods and they are so inspiring. And so we are going to go with a bird theme. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I've never been a huge fan of wallpaper, especially wallpaper murals. But as I was doing some design research, I was looking at Pinterest and on Instagram, and I was drawn to these large wall murals. And I finally decided that I'm going to take the plunge and do one. So I did a lot of research and I looked at a bunch of different websites, and I finally found one that fit my taste and my style and was keeping with my bird inspiration. Now, as many of you know, I do love a white and gold color scheme. I love neutrals. They just are like a warm blanket to me. So branching out into any kind of color is definitely a leap of faith. But this wallpaper that I selected has a blue background. It's not too vibrant, it's the perfect shade, and I still get my white flowers and my branches that are brown and some nice neutral colors mixed inside, but we are definitely going to be using a color on our wallpaper. And I also ordered it in a vinyl finish, and the reason why I did a vinyl finish is because I want my wallpaper to look like canvas. Now, because it's going directly on the drywall, my drywall is textured, so this wallpaper will look like canvas and resemble an oil painting. In order to visualize how my wallpaper is going to hang and where exactly I wanted the wallpaper to hang, I got some blue painter's tape and I did a quick dry run with my wallpaper. I hung it up on the wall. My mural is comprised of 5 different wall panels, so I hung them in the center of my wall. Hanging them up with blue painter's tape gives me the option to adjust them before I make anything permanent. One problem that I had with the original foyer design is that there wasn't anything to weight or add substance to the bottom of the wall. So I was always trying to find something, whether it was a foyer table or a bench, to add that substance. But neither the table or the bench was substantial enough to ground that large wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some boxed moldings. We are going to mimic the molding that's actually right here in this dining room, because you can see the 2 spaces. They are visually connected, so we need to make sure that our design is visually connected. The molding that I have in here is a double molding, meaning I have a molding on the outside that's more decorative, but I also have another piece inside. So we are going to go with that same design in the foyer. So I headed over to Lowe's to pick up some molding. I selected the same molding that I chose here in the dining room. I selected the more decorative molding, but also the flat molding as well. And then I also picked up some chair rail. I just love giving myself a visual. So once again, I cut a few pieces and I put it on the wall just so I had a reference, just to make sure that I really liked what I was putting up on the wall, but also it helps me to center everything so I know which sizes to cut my wood. So now that I have a quick outline of what I need, I'm gonna go outside and I'm going to cut my trim with my miter saw. The first one I cut was the larger size molding. Then I took my flat trim and I cut it 2 inches smaller than the original box so it would fit inside. I love the double molding. It adds an extra element of luxury because we are adding extra trim. And also I love how the flat molding creates a more modern look. Throughout this entire process, I have 2 secret weapons. One of them is my level. It helps me to keep everything nice and straight. And the second one is my son, Blake, who's helping me. Oh my gosh, he is such a fabulous son and he always helps me. I would not be able to get everything done without him. So those 2 things are essential in this project and I am grateful for both of them. So now that I've got everything hung, you can look at this trim and you can see how it now makes sense. It adds that weight to the bottom of that wall. It adds substance and it also adds character. If you do not have the desire to cut your own molding or you just don't have the power tools, you can actually buy molding that's already pre-cut and shaped in a square. And all you have to do is just get some liquid nails and glue it to the wall. So there are alternatives to getting your miter saw out, cutting it, and nailing it to the wall. Before we hang our wallpaper, we've got to patch up those holes that were left over from the artwork and the mirror that was on the wall. We want our wallpaper to lay flat, so we need a flat surface. As I mentioned before, I've never done wallpaper before, so I am definitely a novice. I watched a couple YouTube videos and I read the instructions that came with the wallpaper really thoroughly, so now I feel educated and I feel like we can hang this wallpaper. So what I'm gonna do is get some wallpaper paste. I purchased a bucket of this at Home Depot and I opened the lid and it's more like a gel almost. It's a clear gel. What I did was I poured it into a painter's tray and then I got a paint roller. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll this paste onto the wall first. I rolled it on in the area that I was going to hang my wallpaper. You do not need to paint on a super thick coat of this, but what it does is it gives your wallpaper an extra layer of adhesive so that it adheres well to the wall. Once the paste was on the wall, I could now pull out my individual wall panels and add this paste to the back of that. I rolled it on and I made sure that it was thoroughly coated in the paste. You don't want to miss any spots because when you go to hang it up on your wall, you want to make sure that the glue is everywhere so that it sticks well. I'm starting with my middle panel first. So what I did was I measured it really good to make sure it was in the center of the wall. And again, I am going to be using my level to help me to make sure that it goes down straight, because if it was at an angle, especially at the beginning, we would have a problem throughout the rest of the wallpaper hanging process. So I want to make sure that that first panel that I put on is straight. Now that I know that my wallpaper is square, I got a scraper and I pressed the wallpaper firmly to the wall. You're going to want to make sure there are no air bubbles trapped underneath the wallpaper. Squeeze those air bubbles out, because if there is air in there, the wallpaper will bubble up. It won't be smooth, especially on the edges, and it may peel away from the wall itself. So make sure that it is sufficiently adhered to the wall. I continued to add my wallpaper panels to the wall. I rolled the paste onto the back of the panels and then pieced them right up next to each other. I made sure that the seams matched up perfectly. The goal is to try and create one cohesive wall mural, so matching the seams up is essential. I have some light switches and wall outlets on my wall, and I actually did try and move one of them, but it did not go well. I tried to move it to the side wall and I opened up the wall and guess what? There was a beam there. So I had to patch that back up. And after that, I decided, guess what? Those lights and those outlets are gonna stay exactly where they are. I'm not messing with it. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut the wallpaper and the trim to go around these pieces. So what I did was I pressed that wallpaper really firmly up against the light switch, and then I got an X-Acto knife and cut along the switch, which removed the excess wallpaper. Because this was my first time doing this, I had really prepared myself for an ordeal, and it actually went a lot faster and it was a lot easier than I had anticipated. To hang up these 5 panels, it took me under an hour, which was fabulous in my book. So if you're thinking about hanging wallpaper, it's not as difficult as you may think. If the wallpaper was left just like this, it would look really unfinished. And the plan from the beginning was to add the same trim and molding as I did right here on my dining room wall. So we're going to add that same double molding that we have in here. And in here on each of the 4 corners, I have some little notches that I cut out to add an extra design detail. So we are going to do that same design around our wallpaper panel. So what I'm gonna do is get some more trim, go back outside, cut some more. Once I had all the sizes I needed, I nailed them into the wall. Again, I've got my level and my son who's helping me to get all these pieces nailed in place. Now that the outside molding is in place, I moved on to the inner molding. This flat molding is going to go right up against the edge of the wallpaper. Before I added the trim to each of the 4 corners, I got a ruler square and my X-Acto knife, and I cut out those notches, and then I was able to add that flat trim to those corners. I love how this molding is like an outline to a drawing. The molding is the finishing touches that makes this wallpaper pop and look elegant and refined. Now it is time for my least favorite part of any project, and that is to caulk and to fill the nail holes with wood putty. So I did it. It took me a long time. It's a tedious process, but without caulking and filling those holes, it would look unfinished, and we put all this time and effort into making it look fabulous. We want to make sure that it can look as best as it possibly can, so these steps are necessary. Now that everything is hung and prepped and cleaned, it's time to paint. We are going to use the same color that I have used on my cabinets in here, the cabinets in the kitchen, my entertainment center, and that is a bear paint in the color Polar Bear. So I got my roller and my paintbrush, and I began to paint the trim and the drywall on the bottom portion first. Once the first coat was on, it looked terrible, like first coats always do. So don't be anxious when you are painting and you paint that first coat on and you're like, what have I done? Don't worry, just add more coats, it will look better, which is what I did. I ended up doing 3 coats of paint, which gave my wall and trim the coverage it needed, and now it looks fantastic. So I'm painting the trim and the 2 inches of drywall in between the trim. Painting the trim and the drywall all white makes it look like the wallpaper is a picture and the trim is a frame. All right, you guys, let's take a step back and admire how beautiful the wallpaper and the trim looks on this wall. This is the vision that I had in my mind when I started this project. In fact, I think it's better. The large wallpaper mural takes up the space on this 20-foot tall wall. I love the blue tone of color. Yes, we branched out into color and I love it, but don't worry, the branches and the birds and the flowers keep everything neutral. The birds are fabulous and they coordinate with my lamp. And here's a sentimental detail about this wallpaper. There are 6 of us in this family, so I made sure that there were 6 birds on this wallpaper. So each one of my kiddos, my husband and myself, selected a bird that represents us. So this is our family on this wall. Which bird did you choose?
All right, I chose this one.
How come?
Because it's the big guy.
It's the big
And
guy.
I'm the big guy.
He's the big dog, the big bird in the family. I've had people come over and their jaw has dropped when they've walked inside the foyer because it's so large in scale, it's so grand. It is definitely an impressive design. I actually reached out to the makers of this wallpaper, Ever Wallpaper, and they gave me a coupon code for you guys. So if you're interested in some wallpaper, I have a coupon code. It's Lisa15 that will give you 15% off your purchase. I will leave a link to this wallpaper and the coupon code in my description box. I like having a bench or some kind of seating in the foyer so that when people come in, they can sit comfortably and take their shoes off. Now, if you remember the bench that we had in here before, it was really cute, but it didn't fit my style. It was a little too country for the look that I was going for. Now, I love this bench. I am keeping this bench. I will find another place for it somewhere in this house. So don't worry about me getting rid of it. It's here to stay. But I did need to update this seating. So I looked for a very long time to try and find something that would fit this space, that was long, that was thin, that was the color I needed. In all of my designing and in all of the visions that I had for this space, for some reason, I wanted a bench that had some of these little bolster pillows in it. I don't know, it just was a design idea that I wanted. So I finally found one after a very long time searching. I found this gorgeous bench that fit all of that criteria. I actually purchased this on Amazon, you guys. It was a great price. All I needed to do was screw the side panels and the feet in. It took me a couple of minutes. It was so easy to do. And I actually love that gold accent. It's just the little shine that we need to add to this space. The feet are sleek and modern. The bench itself is sleek and modern. I love these bolsters. They are fabulous. By mixing this more streamlined and contemporary bench with the traditional trim and the wallpaper, it gives us a style of our own, but it makes it feel fresh and modern. This bench definitely updated this space. It's exactly what I had hoped for. Another thing that I love about this bench is that it doesn't have a back, so it doesn't cover up all of the beautiful trim that we worked so hard on. You can see that. However, if you did want to, on a bench like this, you could add some decorative accent pillows. That would be beautiful to put all along the back. You could switch them out for the different seasons to theme them that way. A bench like this is extremely versatile, and I'm so happy I found it. The final addition that we are going to add to this foyer is this small marble side table. This is the perfect size for this space. It's got the marble top, which is classic and elegant. It has that gold post, which ties in with the gold that we have on our bench. And then again, it's got a substantial bit of marble at the bottom. And on top, I'm going to add an orchid arrangement. This is the perfect floral arrangement for this space. Number one, because it needs that height. Because our bench is low and the wallpaper goes all the way up, it adds that extra bit of height that we need. But also, these flowers are neutral, so they blend in because we don't want to take anything away from the wallpaper that's behind us. That is the focal point. Everything else should support that design. Plus, flowers in any space bring in a bit of freshness. Now, one thing that I did not change about this foyer is the light fixture. It's gonna be changed eventually. I'm still looking for the right one. So right now, we're just gonna leave it as is, but know that that will be changed in the future. But besides that, you guys, I am in love with this foyer makeover. So let's look back at where we started. Before, we had a huge wall that I really didn't know how to design. It had some photos and a bench that didn't coordinate. This foyer was fine, but it was not fabulous. But after the addition of our wallpaper, our molding, our bench, and our flower arrangement, it is fabulous. Look at how great it is now. I'm so happy I took the leap and dove in headfirst into the world of wallpaper. It was easier than I thought. I love how we have a pop of color in the foyer. The size and detail on the trim is gorgeous and luxurious, and the seating area is the perfect size and scale. The bench is comfy and convenient. The side table has the gold and white, which coordinate with our bench, and it's a great vehicle to display accessories. I hope you can see that with a little imagination and some elbow grease, you too can turn a space into a jaw-dropping masterpiece. This foyer is going to help me live beautifully. And how is it going to do that? It just puts a smile on my face. And sometimes that is all that matters. If you're happy with your space, you can live beautifully in it. I will leave a link to this wallpaper and the bench in my description box. Well, I hope you got some inspiration or some ideas today. If you liked this video and want to see more like it, I would love to have you subscribe so I can share those with you. Thank you so much for watching.